You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franzen here. I am the host of 15 Minutes, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. For the past 12 years, Kevin Kita has been establishing himself as a go-to advocate for businesses facing civil claims that present significant exposure. An equity partner with the law firm Sutter O'Connell, based out of Cleveland, Ohio. Kevin's practice includes defense of first-party insurance claims, warranty and product liability claims, employment disputes, and high-exposure claims arising from catastrophic accidents nationwide. While he's personally licensed in Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, and California, and is soon to be licensed in Illinois, he has also represented clients via ProHawk, Vice, and federal bar admissions in several other states, including Tennessee, Arkansas, Wyoming, and Missouri. Hey, Kevin, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so tell me how you got started in the legal industry.
Sure. I'll give you a little bit of my firm's background and mine personally, because the firm predates me. But the founding partners of our firm were originally part of a larger kind of regional civil defense firm, and really were some of the best trial specialists at that firm, and decided that they kind of wanted to break off and do their own thing. And so around 2000 is when they formed this law firm. I joined in 2011, originally as a law clerk when I was a 3L in law school. The namesake of our firm, Larry Sutter, had a long time connection to the University of Akron School of Law, where I was attending as a adjunct kind of professor, and he was teach trial advocacy. Larry was one of the most well-known and recognized trial attorneys in the country, and he shared the skills that he had learned and developed over the course of his career with students. I was one of his law students, and he coached me through competition. And following the competition, he said, I'd like to have you come work for me. So I had actually been working at the firm that they had broken away from, and I said, yeah, I'd love to be a part of it. And he kind of became my initial mentor and an employer along the way. So brought me in right in the beginning of 2011, and I've been with the firm ever since.
Wow. So your first kind of job in the legal industry is with this firm.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you had clerkships and stuff in law school, but the first job as an attorney was with this firm, and I've been with them ever since.
When did you know you wanted to be an attorney?
It was later. It wasn't until after undergrad. My family, strangely enough, I have a family of attorneys. My father's an attorney. My older brother is an attorney. I have a couple uncles that were attorneys. And growing up, I saw how hard the work can be. Weekends and time away and going to trial and things like that. And so I think I just kind of wrote it off. I'm like, I'll never be interested in that. I want to do something else. But following undergrad, I was working a couple of jobs, trying to figure out where I wanted to go to grad school. I was looking in psychology and things like that. And then I just started kind of spending a little bit more time talking to some of my friends that had gone to law school, talking to my brother, talking about what they were doing, what their actual job was. And they were all very much into advocacy, either appellate or trial level advocacy. And I said, I kind of wrote this off my whole life without really considering it. Why not? Maybe I should give it a look, and kind of started dabbling, taking the LSAT and seeing how I scored and seeing what opportunities were out there, and kind of got into it. Kind of backed into the career. I got a full scholarship at the University of Akron School of Law. So when I went there, I was like, well, I can roll the dice. If I don't like it, it's kind of no harm, no foul. But it took to it, and the more involved I got and the harder I worked at it, the more I enjoyed it. So it just kind of happened that, the opportunity approached. I just took advantage of it, and next thing you know, it's a career.
So you got a full scholarship to Akron School of Law. You must have been a pretty good student. What were you When you were going through undergrad, what were your goals?
In undergrad, I was kind of, finding myself, but the one thing that I really took to in undergrad was psychology. And so I kind of found myself the same way there as I took, a gamut of classes and go, which ones I like, I'll look more into those. And so I really thought initially I was going to be a clinical psychologist. I really find people very interesting, learning about individuals and kind of what makes people tick. And as I later found, that really lent itself when I got involved in law, and especially trial law, when you're trying to formulate, and advocate, formulate your argument and advocate on behalf of your client and think, how is this message going to be received and how can it be best received so people can understand our perspective and why they should find for us on these particular issues. So yeah, originally it was I was going to be clinical doctor taking notes, putting you on the comfy couch and asking about what you're feeling, and it turned out to be consulting and advocating for people in a much different way.
So you said after you finished undergrad, you had been working a couple different jobs while you were considering law school. What kind of things were you doing?
I was actually teaching children with special needs. I worked at a special school for children that were on the autism spectrum. I'd also worked part time at a private high school, basically kind of functioned like an RA would in college. They had a dormitory and things. So, there's unfortunately not a whole lot of money to be made in a down economy in the special needs education business. So that got put a roof over my head, and then I would work some extra shifts working with other children in that were in residential setups that had various behavioral and psychological issues that needed to be worked with.
Has any of that experience helped you in your current position?
You know, it not necessarily on a daily basis, but I think one thing that you need uh, in that profession, working with people that have specific challenges, and that I think is applicable to any number of professions, but certainly the legal field, is a level of patience. That's certainly tested and tried when there's difficulty communicating, and that's a lot of what you read and what a lot of the frustration, both for a child with that type of a conditioning issue is going to be, is their inability to communicate clearly, and your effort to try to assuage that and help them out. And when you're in this profession, it takes that you still need a level of patience. You need to think about clear communication and being able to handle, the frustrating and unexpected. It's just kind of a general open mind for those types of things. I think that definitely is carried through.
So tell me a little bit more about your journey with Sutter O'Connell. You started there. You kind of developed you had a mentor there, and they hired you. And how has that looked now? You're an equity partner. Hey, take me through that process.
Sure. Well, I was very fortunate, and it's been the culture of our firm, where I'd refer us to as a smaller, almost boutique firm, but with some very specialized attorneys in the sense of not a lot of people really know how to try cases and or really have the experience taking cases to trial. And that's what Larry Sutter, Matt O'Connell, the founding partners, really instilled, is that everyone that works here is going to know how to do this stuff and do it well. So I give you that background. So when I was first brought in and sworn in 2011, within a few weeks, I was, second chairing a trial, a medical malpractice trial that was a week long. Larry and Matt and the other partners at the firm at that time were very quick to say, we know we trained you in law school, we're going to get everything, and we want you involved and we want you doing stuff, getting up on your feet. Unlike some experiences in other firms, that everyone's a little different, but there are definitely offices out there where you're brought along much more slowly and given much more maybe basic tasks, kind of legal research and writing, maybe even for several years, and you're really separated from the client. Um, you know, I was trained from the time I was, a one-day lawyer onward, that I need to be carrying myself and be approaching every file I'm on as if I'm the partner and that was my client. And I was given a lot of access to clients, and they're given a lot of opportunity to take cases, make evaluations, make judgments. I'd be supervised, of course, and I'd get recommendations when I was wrong, and everyone's wrong early on, and you learn it as you go. but I was able to get into trial right away. So within my first 2 years as a lawyer, I think I had tried 6 or 7 cases, which in a civil setting is pretty rare. If you can get one or two to go in any given year, that's usually pretty good. And that's been changing and getting less and less now, even more recently with COVID and everything else that may have changed in the marketplace and risk aversion. But so early on, I got a lot of really good experience, and because I was able to prove myself there, partners felt more comfortable putting me on bigger cases. And within, my third year, I was, filing pro hoc vice to go try a case in federal court for 2 weeks in Tennessee with Larry Sutter, being primary support and getting up and arguing that, and so on and so forth. And so I was able to gain a lot of experience and be advanced as an associate very quickly. Uh, and then it really became about how do you go about developing your own clients and networking. And that was another thing that the partners here and the culture here has always really advanced is pushing our associates, like I said, to carry yourself as a partner with your files, not just here, but then we want you going out and carrying yourself as a professional, getting involved with bar associations or networking events, finding ways that you can meet people and kind of expand your own name, the name of the firm, etc. Because you really never know when an opportunity is going to knock. And so, I think it was about my fourth or fifth year as an associate, an opportunity came through LexisNexis at the time. They were looking to write an Ohio insurance guide, a practical guide saying, look, what do you have to do to defend these types of cases? How do you handle these types of issues and give strategic pointers? And I'd had a little bit of experience with insurance work, but that is to say, defending an insurance company directly as opposed to being hired by an insurance company to defend somebody else. So they said they need some chapters written. I said, I'll do the legwork. So I agreed to write 2 chapters for the guide, and the chapters they needed help with were bad faith defense, bad faith claims, and responding to tender issues. And so I went ahead and did the legwork and wrote, and it got published, and I still update those. And about six months to a year after I published those, a friend of a friend was working in-house at a major insurance company and said, we need an insurance bad faith defense attorney in Ohio that knows how to try cases because our current bench just really isn't kind of living up to our expectations. Would you give it a shot? And I said, I'd love to give, to prove myself. And then that became one of my big clients. And, that kind of put me on the radar with the partners going, okay, well, he can develop his own work. He's starting to generate this. And so that really laid the foundation for, by my 7th year in, that's when you're up for, be considered. And I was voted in at that point. So it was a great journey of having the right types of leaders, partners that were here that were willing to put me up to the challenge, but also, and kind of push me out there and say, look, sink or swim, you got to do this, right? And just having the right kind of support there at the same time to have the confidence to take advantage of those opportunities and the right things falling into place, a little bit of serendipity as well, where, I just was fortunate enough to meet the right people at the right times to kind of develop a business and expand what I can do.
You talked about having the confidence to meet those opportunities. So when you're first getting started and you find yourself, in these trial cases, knowing that other lawyers maybe take years before they can do 6 or 7 at, in the time that you did them, what was your reaction? Were you like, wow?
Yeah, when we're going through the trial program at Akron, and you hear the kind of the messaging around the program was always very highly spoken. So we hear, oh, Larry Sutter, he's a great trial attorney, and Akron's one of the top trial programs in the country. You really learn the right way to do things. And you hear that, and you go through it, and you compete in these competitions with other schools, and you feel good about it. But then you get out into the real practice of law, and there's a big steep learning curve. They teach you how to do a whole lot of thinking in law school, how to think like an attorney, but to do the day to day and to see the practical way this all works is something you just got to experience. So you get into your first trial. I get in my first trial, and I'm thinking, all right, well, now we're really going to see, how do we measure up? And they get up and they do their opening statement. I'm like, oh, I can do this. I'm not, it's a weird moment. There's always those nerves and butterflies when, because this is a big deal. And as soon as they start talking, like all of a sudden it all washes away. And I was like, nope, I've done this before. And the neatest thing about that was, Larry taught us how to try cases and how to prep your case and prep your cross and all these things. And then you got to go to trial with him. And it's a $5 million, $10 million exposure case, it's multiple weeks. And exactly the way he taught you to do it in this like 3 hour law school mock trial is exactly the way he practiced law in real life. And there's just that helps create the confidence because you're like, wait, I spent hundreds of hours doing this in law school, prepping and training. And now I see, this wasn't some gag, this wasn't some game. This was a real life skill that I have. And I'm hundreds of hours ahead of other people because I did it, So it's really, really neat.
So let me ask you this: what didn't they teach you in law school that you've realized that you've needed to know or be able to do, since that time?
Well, one thing that was referenced in law school, but certainly something that hits home when you begin to practice law in real life, is that the law and the rules of evidence, at least in a trial court, are not necessarily what you find in the cases and what's in the books or even in the statute. It's whatever the judge thinks that is, right? So what you have to deal with in any given day, because the judge is making a ruling, and obviously there's different arguments and how this case should be interpreted. But you can, depending on which court you're in and which jurisdiction and the culture and the nature of the town or the people in that area, you never really know what you're going to get. And frankly, the judge can decide, what, this case seems right on point. And yes, you should win, but I'm going to deny your motion. And we'll just see what happens, or you can settle it. You can spend another $50,000 defending this case, or $100,000 defending the case, or you can just settle it right now. I'm going to give you that choice because it's my, what are you going to do? Defend it, then appeal it, and spend even more. So there's a kind of reality to how are these things really going to play out. It's not necessarily just, well, the law says this, therefore that's what's going to happen. And there's a level of just school of hard knocks kind of thing where you kind of figure out how these things really play out, and it allows you to provide a much more accurate, thorough prediction and evaluation for clients. As a first year associate, you just can't do it the same way someone who's been doing it 10, 15 years has, because they've just seen it enough.
As an equity partner, how involved are you in kind of the business of the firm? I talked to a lot of attorneys and they say, yeah, I knew I'm an expert lawyer, but I didn't know. I had to learn a lot about kind of running the business. How's that gone for you?
That's been something that's growing and developing. It's not something like once I became equity partner, they're going, all right, now you're handling all the budgeting for the firm this year, all the hiring, whatever. But my partners were very enthusiastic about getting me involved. They're not like, oh, he's the new guy, let's keep him on the outside. So it's been something that's grown and developed over years. And yeah, it very much is different. And running a business is different than practicing law. And they're two different skill sets. So I definitely lean on the experience of my partners who've been doing it for a much longer time. And but try to bring a new perspective to it as well. I've been actively involved in hiring and like diversity and inclusion type efforts that we have in part after Larry Sutter passed away. Well, really before around that time but in the years leading up to his passing, I stepped into his place and I now run the trial program at Akron that he had been running for about 25 years. I've been doing that now for the better part of the last 10 years. And, so that's one way I keep in connection with law students in the area. And I'm kind of somewhat in tune there, and I can bring that type of perspective into our interviews when we're bringing people in. And I can also recommend young students if they're overlooking for that kind of position. I've been asked to kind of give my commentary on what our policies are going to be as a company. And as we're looking at new hires, we really want to grow. We're in a growth mindset. It's been allowed for me they've really allowed me the opportunity to have my voice be heard. And at the same time, allow me to feed off the experience that they've had over the last 20 plus years running law firms to go, okay, set me up for success, when it's my turn to maybe take over a reins or something like that if that occasion comes.
It sounds like you've been really fortunate to have kind of some great mentors. Is there any advice that you have received from one of them that is something that maybe you think about somewhat regularly?
Um, yeah, I they've given me so much advice, throughout the years in any sort of context. It's hard to pick out just one thing, but I one I guess if I had to put one thing on reflecting back on the way my career has developed, Larry Sutter was always about keeping your eyes open for opportunity and to be ready when opportunity knocks, right? And I kind of talked about that a little bit in the way my career started to unfold, and I found it to be true throughout. Is you know, there's no substitute for hard work and preparation. That's something that Larry always kind of beat into our heads. The other guy the guy or woman on the other side of the aisle, or the other at the other council table, may be smarter than you, may have gone to a better school, may have done, have all the accolades in the world. But if you outwork them, you're going to have the best chance to do it. And that's being mindful of opportunities and being ready to seize them when they come. And so that's what I've always tried to do. And I imagine that's advice that's good for everybody everywhere, and I'm sure a lot of people do. But I've been very, very fortunate to know that, and I'm very mindful of that. The one thing I kind of hang my hat on is when opportunities have arrived, I've just tried to do my best to seize them, and that's played out better for me than anything else. And I think it's been kind of the echo of our firm too, that we've been able to do that.
As a young attorney, when you were, especially when you were starting, were you when you'd see like grizzled attorneys on the other side, like guys maybe you'd heard of before or something? What
Sure.
how did you keep from being maybe intimidated or something like that?
Well, I'm not sure I can stop myself from being a little intimidated, but you kind of just focus on what you can do, or at least that's my concept. Is I can't control their case, right? And when I get into any trial, I'm not trying their case, I'm trying my case. And that sounds a bit cliche, but it is really important. I've prepared, there's a story I need to tell this jury, there's an argument I need to advance to this jury. And I can fully expect this guy's going to say something completely else, but if completely different. But if I spend all of my time trying to swat flies and trying to defend the things he's saying, I'm not advancing my client's case, right? So it's trying to recenter and refocus on the things I can control, and the chips are going to fall where they may, because you can try the perfect case, but a jury is going to do what they want to do with it sometimes, right? You can't guarantee 100% that you're going to get anything you want. So you do the best thing you can and you let the chips fall. And more often than not, when I've been successful in staying true to my preparation, my plan, my strategy, I get great results. It's situations where I find myself making an argument in a motion hearing or something where I find like I'm chasing rabbits or something. I'm going after what he's saying and I'm not focusing on my point where I feel like I haven't been as at my best. So it's certainly one thing I've done.
Great, great. Hey, I have one more question for you, but first, tell me how people can find out more information about Sutter O'Connell.
Absolutely. Well, you can go to our website, www.sutter, Sutter, law, law.com, sutter-law.com. And you can get any of our information about me and my partners, our associates. All of our contact information is there, a little bit about our background and kind of the unique setup of our firm. Without going too long here, I mentioned we're a relatively small firm, fluctuating size between 10 and 20, 25 attorneys maybe at any given time, depending on the market and what's going on. But we've tried cases in I think close to 40 states, and we are trial counsel for a lot of excess insurers that they recognize our specialization and the unique skill set that we can bring in cases when things are really at risk. So we've been all over, and we really offer, I think, a unique set of skills that you won't find necessarily everywhere else. So I welcome anybody to look us up and give us a call.
Okay. Hey, last question for you. Tell me a little bit about what's kind of in a typical day for you, and are there any rituals that you find to be particularly important?
I say typical day. I don't know if there's such a thing as a typical day in my world. Um, you know, the any given day is going to require, kind of a game plan. I try to set that out the night before, the day before, the week before, depending. the to-do list and the checklist of things that need to be addressed. I don't like to have any file or any client I'm working on go more than, a handful of weeks without hearing from us and an update as to what's going on. I feel like that's one of the most important uh, assets or resources that we can provide to a client is keeping them in the know of what's going on with their case. This is really their case. We're here to assist them and to help them with it. But any given day is going to include a lot of that, is including making sure the clients are up to date on what's going on, that they're aware of the strategy and what you're pursuing and how those efforts are proceeding. And then from there, it's really going to depend on, the ebbs and flows where you could have in the modern, legal field, we're going to be doing Zoom depositions with people, sometimes Zoom hearings in various courts. And in my practice, where I'm going to be I'm attending a hearing over the phone in California and then Zooming into Michigan. And then I might be driving down the road to step into a hearing, or a mediation in a local Ohio court, or going even down to the federal courthouse. So I have variety is the spice of life. I have a very spicy practice for that.
Very nice. Very nice. Hey, Kevin, it's been great to talk to you. I really appreciate your time and your perspective. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, and the best to you and your program going forward.
Thanks so much. So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.